It's the Dynamite Show. Paul Fontaine alongside Jeff Hawkins on the Fight Game Media Network. Coming to you a little bit late today because it's Title Tuesday. And couple things. We've been approved. I don't know if you know this, Jeff. We've been approved for an overrun.
Oh,
so,
good.
If we need it, we can go there. And I did promise on Twitter that John Cena was going to be here. He is here, but you can't see him, unfortunately. But trust me, he's here.
He did not just say that joke. You didn't say that joke on the air, did you?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I actually had a computer set up, and I was going to have John Cena's name on it, but I couldn't get the camera to work. I haven't used that computer in so long, and I haven't used a camera maybe ever. So
I appreciate the attempts at levity right now, Paul.
Yeah, I know. You know what? We are going to go slightly off script here, and I'm going to let Jeff have the floor because there was one segment on this show that he is just dying to talk about. And I brought it up on Twitter saying I love the segment, not meaning a particular portion of the segment, which is what Jeff is going to talk about now. And I'll have some thoughts. But I do want to mention before Jeff gets going, I am blissfully unaware of what's going on in the world because I watch way too much wrestling. I don't watch the news. I ignore my news feeds. And so I really don't know what's going on outside of my own backyard. But I'm sure they are. And Jeff, go.
Not to give you a recap of what's going on in the world, Paul.
Everyone but me knows, so you don't.
That's fine, but everybody knows, so we don't need to discuss that part of it.
Right. This
is possibly the most tone deaf segment I've ever seen on wrestling. I grew up in the '80s, and there's blatant racism in the '80s that those of us in Gen X have to account for when telling people about the history of professional wrestling, especially Southern wrestling.
Is this worse than that dude? I can't even remember his name, but that was threatening to be a terrorist with Hulk Hogan.
Oh no! We're this is on par with Muhammad Hassan and the Undertaker.
Okay.
In terms of tone deafness and letting a segment go.
Okay.
It really is. And I don't care if MJF was okay with it. I really don't. There's a responsibility to read the room here. And maybe it's just I have bought in a little bit to the AEW facade / veneer of being the tolerant company where this kind of stuff doesn't happen and they don't tweak people like this. But they leaned into the anti-Semitism on this one, Paul.
Yes.
They put Friedman on the roll of quarters.
Not MJF.
Not Max. Not Max, not MJF, not Triple B, not the Devil, not whatever you want to put on. They put Friedman on there for a reason.
Yeah.
And this has been next to the mid-1940s, the worst time for Judaism since then. And I can't get over my anger that they approved this spot to go. Wait a few weeks. You have 6 weeks to build this.
Or this is wait a few weeks so you can actually realize that no, we can't do this.
Yes, and it doesn't matter if everybody involved was okay with it. This got approved by somebody.
I am fully convinced now that the original plan for Cole and MJF was Cole was going to hit him with the roll of quarters.
I said that too, and everybody said, "No, you're ridiculous."
But the fact that they did this now,
this is Sergeant Slaughter Iraq sympathizer level of tone deafness.
But the difference there is that wasn't tone deaf. They were deliberately trying to do something.
Well, they're deliberately trying to do this in my opinion.
So they're not being tone deaf.
I think this is for cheap heat and headlines. I do.
Okay. And do you think that MJF is going to go on Twitter and play the card that you know what, I'm Jewish and I'm okay with it, so you should be too? Or is he going to actually play? Is he going to actually go the other way and come after the character of Juice Robinson for doing it?
I think he's going to come after the character of Juice Robinson for doing it, or he's going to try and parse it a bit and say, hey, I was okay with it, but I realized many others weren't, and I'm sorry for anybody I offended.
Yeah. Sam here has a good point. I think she wonders if this is what MJF wanted to do to call out anti-Semitism. That very well could be. I know MJF is a deeply religious person. He takes his faith seriously, and that could be his intent. But that's where you need someone in the room to say, okay, we've got to do this a different way.
And here's my caveat. From 2000 to 2008, I lived in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood. I live a half a mile away from there. I'm still very close to a lot of my neighbors still, and they are hurting right now. Some of them have dead relatives over there, et cetera, et cetera. I might be a little bit amped up about this whole thing, but I can't take full. I'm not trying to do stolen valor here or anything. It's not my tragedy, but it's a tragedy type of a thing with me. And I just look, I've been in writers' rooms, and you're allowed to be as offensive as possible in there, et cetera, et cetera. But you would never go to air with a joke right after you would postpone the episode, or you wouldn't air the episode. There's been that's happened before. Like, you've had a subplot in there that was a little bit too close to home to the headlines, and you wouldn't air it at all.
Even WWE has nixed things. Not that long ago, when Jay Briscoe died, they had a skit scheduled where they were going to do like a funeral, like a mock funeral for characters, and no, we can't do that. And in this case, somebody needed to say, and could it be that Tony is so wrapped up in this Tuesday Night War and getting things on YouTube before the show and, trying to do whatever he can to beat NXT, that something like this, he was just so in the weeds that it didn't even occur to him. I mean, it's possible. And if that's the case, he's doing too much, because this was his job to say no. We can't do this.
Okay, yeah. It's also on the rundown, probably. Yeah. Someone needs to point this out.
Yeah, but are they scared to call out Tony on something?
They better not be.
Oh, you heard how mean he is when he yelled at Adam Cole and MJF in that room.
Stop it. Make me laugh right now. I'm angry.
Sam wonders if it's an MJF call. I'm sure it was an MJF call, but this
is you need to save somebody from their own instincts type of a thing. I get, I'm going to make a strong statement today on anti-Semitism. That ain't it, Chief.
Yeah, not in this at this time. Maybe the idea was at some point. I'm sure that MJF, like, when he brought that thing up twice in promos, so I'm sure in the back of his mind he had something like this that he wanted to do.
And that's my argument, and that's also my argument against this being part of Juice's already known lore of using a roll of quarters, because it doesn't matter. You've already ascribed anti-Semitism to the roll of quarters.
I wouldn't, but you could have done the roll of quarters without putting Friedman on it, like, as you said. You could have threatened the roll of quarters without actually showing it, and that could have been enough to get MJF going. He could even bring up, what's gone on. I've talked about it, and you're not going there.
And creatively, I'll talk about the reactions and stuff, because I thought the acting on that part was fine, but it's just the absolute. I am gobsmacked, especially because half this talent are very socio-politically minded. They're the types who take the pictures with the people with the posters of trans kids, et cetera, and it's just this and the company embraces that.
And I'm sure MJF has been bothered, ever since everything that went down in the Middle East has gone down. I'm sure it's weighing on him pretty heavily right now.
I am too, and I get it, but it's just one of those things where it's like, even I mean, someone. This is giving people too much creative freedom, and I said in our Discord chat, I was so angry I kind of mentally tuned out a bit I mean, I watched the show. I can talk about the show, but I was not emotionally invested in the show after that.
The thing is, the
Go ahead.
frustrating thing is that I mean, it completely wasn't necessary.
Yes.
Because that segment had a lot of heat already without that.
You remember a couple weeks ago, you were livid about a UFC card where there were a couple of promos that were homophobic.
Yeah.
Was that card overall good fighting?
I honestly don't remember because all I remember
and I think that's what's going to happen here too. I thought this card was pretty darn good. I thought the show was pretty darn good, but the thing I'm taking away from it is the worst aspect of it.
Yeah.
And they should be ashamed of themselves. They should. If Tony hasn't come out with a tweet yet, after because he's online and he's reading the feedback, and if he's laughing about or whatever secretly, he needs to straighten up. He needs to come out with a tweet sooner than later, apologizing.
Yeah. Do you think he will?
I think he will after a day. I think it'll come tomorrow.
And maybe even his corporate partners are going to have to do something.
I don't do that crap. I'm sorry. I'm not going to threaten him with a boycott or something. I mean, they can if they want, but if I don't want people doing that. That I hate that stuff, man. I do, but I get it if they do. I don't. You know what? WWE wouldn't be beneath doing that though.
I mean WBD.
Oh, I mean, yeah, WBD could if they get wind of it, but who knows if any of them actually watch the product. I mean, it takes.
You don't think WWE's going to send them something?
Oh no, that's what I meant. I mean, it took 20 Twitter users to get some guy on the board to say Jay Briscoe couldn't come in because of stuff he said years ago. But WWE has done this before. They did this with the pizza cutter thing, didn't they?
Yeah,
with Nick Gage. Weren't they the ones behind the whole trashing or telling the sponsors, hey, do you want that kind of stuff on this TV thing? They will do the underhanded stuff, and you don't give that chance to your enemy to do this. I mean, all the garbage talk about this being, Tuesday Night War or whatever. I got
it's all what Sam was talking I saw about this. Here. I put it up on the screen in case anybody hasn't seen it. Could be that it was that's why he put that out there.
Yes, he was trying to gild the lily a bit or gild the razor, however they say that. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm about to do something. But by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it took away from, I thought was what was a pretty darn great segment. I said so on Twitter, and obviously knowing that the quarters thing was bad, and I will also say at the time I made that tweet, and people are not going to believe this, but trust me, I watch way too much wrestling. I was blissfully unaware of what's going on in the Middle East, and it was explained to me by a good friend who lived in Israel for 10 years and is Jewish, and he's only been back in the States for a couple of years. So, this obviously hit real home for him, and he is a huge MJF fan, and he was not happy with this angle. Now, I looked again, he's not specifically criticizing MJF for it. And again, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I don't know if he's mad at MJF or not, but he is definitely mad that angle aired. And again, like, it was completely unnecessary. Because they had heat. They had a lot of heat for this angle. And we'll talk about it, but the short answer is I thought it was one of MJF's best promos he's ever done. And the best babyface promo he's ever done.
He was serious. He was reacting the correct way. He gave motive to why he wants the title back, and it was perfect. It was a perfect 180. Look, he took a lot of crap online, especially from my other home Voices of Wrestling, and also from Alan Forel, who ex
from F4W.
Ex-Wrestling Observer now with the Torch, I think.
Torch,
still.
yeah, I believe you're right.
You know, about and he said, hey, I dropped the ball, et cetera. I kind of questioned, does he know why he dropped the ball? I wasn't sure if they knew or not, but he came out, did a very passionate promo. It was Jay White this week who dropped the ball, in my opinion. I thought his mic work was lightweight as hell, but we'll get into that.
Well, we'll talk about it. And I'm glad you brought it up last week, because we'll kind of slowly move on, and we'll get back to this.
We'll get to everything.
Yeah. I did want to talk just a little bit about last week, because as most people watching and listening are aware, I was away last week. I had the great misfortune of watching my Toronto Blue Jays shit the bed in Minnesota, and I listened to your show with Kevin on my way back.
Yes,
and before watching Dynamite,
you blew up the chat too, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm listening to your show. And I'm thinking, this does not sound like a show that I'll really like all that much. And then you had put over Edge's promo at the end, and and I will say I watched the show, and Matt liked the episode as well, and I'll get to that too. And I agree with pretty much everything Matt said there. But I didn't like that show at all. I didn't really like the Edge promo at the end that much. I thought the energy was good. It was the same promo we've heard from him in WWE.
I didn't like the show, but I liked the promo.
We heard the promo on Collision as well.
Yeah.
For the few of us that actually watch Collision.
And I mostly liked Christian during that promo. I think he was the one.
Christian was good. Christian was good. Although the cut I saw, I didn't have a clue. If I hadn't listened to your show, I wouldn't have known what he said, because they didn't. Yeah, they completely bleeped it out, and you didn't even see his face. So, but you got a pretty good idea. And then a later clip I saw, it was "Go bleep yourself." So pretty obvious what he says. But and I thought, oh my God, that MJF Adam Cole thing, or the Adam Cole Kingdom stuff was so bad. I mean, that should never have made air. And they aired it twice.
Yes.
I don't know what they think they're doing. I think that's Jimmy Jacobs. Because
it feels like it.
The close-ups and the music.
It's a close-up faces his thing, because they did that again this week too. And I was just like, what is?
And he did more of it. Yeah. I mean, with not just Cole, but with MJF, with I keep saying MJF, with Roddy, with Matt, with Bennett, and this freaking giraffe. And I thought this week was better than last week. Let me
set a stage here for this week as we're getting into this show. Then,
sure,
because a lot of the talk here is about this Tuesday Night War thing, and after tonight, everything remains the same, kids. AEW is a solid number 2. That's very successful. NXT is still the developmental territory of the WWE, and it just had some good guest stars. Now, the one point that was being made all week was look how gotten to WWE is by putting all those stars on TV. And let's not forget. I don't know if you saw Tony's tweet calling HBK a bald asshole. He's a little gotten to too. But
you sent it to me.
Oh, I did. Yes, that's correct. Sorry.
That's okay. I had already seen it, though.
I don't watch my own show. What am I doing?
The funny thing is, though, I had seen it, but I didn't realize it was Tony's tweet.
But anyways, one of the things missing from this context is when you look at who they put on this Title Tuesday to be the heavy hitters, it was not most of the elite. There was no Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks here.
Nope.
There was no 4 pillars other than the MJF appearance here.
Yeah, this was Sammy.
This was Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson.
Saraya. They advertised Moxley. They didn't deliver him.
They advertised him to get you in.
Yeah.
Christian, Adam Copeland. It was all ex-WWE guys.
Yeah. And that's who they're relying on.
Yeah,
I mean, every match,
that's your star power, and that's part of your problem here, in my opinion. But
Danielson,
nevertheless,
I'm looking at the lineup: Danielson, Jericho. Okay, you had Orange Cassidy versus Phoenix, but that was originally Moxley.
Yes, that was originally Moxley.
So you had Matt Sydal and Wardlow, and Hangman Page and Jay White.
Okay, but out of those two, only the Hangman and White was advertised. Wardlow was not.
Correct. Yeah, you're right. Hangman and White was, and
then everybody, and then every other match had an ex WWE headliner, not just a minor person, a headliner in some ways.
So yeah, you're right about that. They didn't rely on the Elite. No Bucks anywhere to be found on this episode. I guess Hangman's part of the Elite, so we can include.
But now that I've been very critical about a lot of things, I overall liked the show.
I love the show. I thought like Matt said, one of the better shows they've done, up until the Hikaru Shida Saraya match, and then it kind of went down a bit, and then the main event. I will talk about it more at the end, but that was a complete WWE match.
Yes,
not a good one. And the ending was good, but that's the same as all WWE matches. They do all the bullshit at the end, and it's they got a great ending, but and then you had the wild brawl at the end, which was fun. But that match, I mean, for an AEW show, if you're telling people like this is the best we got to offer, and your main event of that show is 49-year-old Adam Copeland and Luchasaurus having a plotting WWE style, top of the second hour Raw match.
Yeah.
That was a misstep. I mean, you should have main evented this with Hangman and Swerve, in my opinion. But they didn't. But yeah, I thought like overall the show was great. Did you watch the so you talked about how Tony's been gotten to. So the chronology of this was, I recorded my MMA show with Ryan Frederick in Minnesota on Tuesday night, and he told me about all the NXT stuff. So I already knew about that. Then I listened to your show and I heard about all the big matches that AEW is promoting. And really, we had 3 pay-per-view matches on this show that were advertised. Hangman and Hangman and Jay White is a pay-per-view quality match. Danielson and Strickland is a pay-per-view quality match, and Jon Moxley and Rey Fenix is a pay-per-view quality match. So that and I'm talking about what they advertised, not necessarily what they delivered. And even Jericho Hobbs, you could call that a pay-per-view match. And I would say that so that was the first step. Then we start getting more announcements from NXT. They're bringing in Becky Lynch. They're bringing in The Undertaker. They've already announced Cody Rhodes, John Cena, the Brawling Brutes with being brought on to team with Tyler Bate, like just on and on and on. And then today they were like, every WWE superstar under contract was tweeting something about being asked to come to the show. So then we get NXT announces a 30-minute commercial-free start to the show. Almost immediately, Tony Khan tweets out that we're doing a 30-minute commercial-free. Then they I might have this timeline wrong, but they announced a 10-minute overrun. Now, of course, NXT always has an overrun. So, the joke was, oh, now they're going to do a 15-minute overrun. I think they ended up going 15 minutes on AEW. And then we had that. Then Tony Khan announces a buy-in for this show of Eddie Kingston against Minoru Suzuki. I assume it was a Ring of Honor title match. I don't know. I didn't watch it. Did you watch the Kingston match?
Yes.
You did? Okay. Was it good?
Yeah. It's every Minoru Suzuki match you get and almost every Kingston match you get, but was still very good. I'm not saying that as a pejorative necessarily. It's just one of those things where it's like, most of the match was Kingston smacking the hell out of Minoru Suzuki and Minoru Suzuki smiling and laughing. It took Eddie about 6 of those spinning back fists to finally knock him out, and then he did the Northern Lights driver and pinned him. So, and was it a Ring of Honor title match? Do you know? It was. Both titles were on the line, I believe. Both titles. Wow, that's pretty cool. So, that's great. For the fans involved. I mean, the last thing I wanted to watch tonight was more wrestling. So, I will watch that match at some point. When I remember that it was on. I did see it on my YouTube guide, which was funny because I'm not often checking that. In fact, on my smart TV, it was showing up as a suggested viewing along with, all the TV shows I watch and everything. So that was kind of interesting.
But I thought
overall, your point though, it got ridiculous with we're going commercial free. Yeah, but we're starting a half hour early. Yeah, well, we're giving everybody ice cream bars. Yeah, well.
Yeah, I suggested in a Facebook group that I'm on that, I mean, at this point they're going to start offering viewers $25 gift cards to watch the show. You know,
might be able to afford AEW pay-per-views that way. Then that'd be great.
So I thought overall there was one thing I noticed on this show, and I made note of it in my notes like every time it happened, but I'll just kind of mention it now. And I assume you're pretty observant, so you would have noticed this as well. But I don't know if everyone would notice it.
Tell the women I date that I'm pretty observant because they don't believe it.
They really produced this show in a way that it made it very difficult to turn it off.
They kept throwing stuff at you like a pay-per-view. They never took a break, really. It was one of those things.
Even when they went to commercial, there was something going on. Every time they went to commercial, it was in the middle of someone talking, to the point where, I mean, it was weird because they'd literally be in the middle of a sentence and they'd be cutting the commercial. At least that's how I saw it in Canada. I don't know if it was the same in the States.
All right. The first couple, or at least two of them, were the Tony Storm silent vignettes, which I thought were creative. I thought that was some outside the box thinking.
By the way, I didn't mention this when I was talking about last. I hate that Tony Storm shit.
We'll talk about it as we get to it.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, there wasn't.
You mean the one from last week?
And the collision.
The collision and stuff. Okay, yeah.
The stuff the match last week was, I mean, it was fine. The collision match was.
I don't like the crane zoom of Ready for My Close-Up.
I don't like the biting the ass. What's that about?
There was a lot of ass play on that collision, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Or am I thinking Rampage?
No, it was collision because that was the
AEW
as well.
Butt stuff, and it was just weird.
Well, and then I watched the New Japan show with Taguchi doing that too. But they had so I don't really like the Tony. So I didn't see any of the Tony Storm stuff because I was flicking through the commercials. But she's obviously really popular right now. If you look at the ratings patterns, she's moving ratings, so it's working. And they put it on in a spot where you can't churn the channel if you want to see it. And it was clever because they called it a silent film.
You kind of can, because she literally on the first one left the screen for 30 seconds.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. So I'm watching it. I'm going, it was like she left. And I'm like, did she just leave her own silent movie for a while?
Well, she went to go in the movie, I guess.
No. She left on one side, and the gag was she walked around the camera on the other side, and she entered the other side.
Oh, okay.
It was a total silent film gag, and I.
But even during the matches, usually there'll be a spot where they'll say, someone gets thrown to the outside, and they're like, Dynamite rolls on. It
actually didn't work for the Jay White match, in my opinion. I thought it was a little, because it went through 2 commercial breaks, and it was off-putting to the style, and I almost tuned out during the picture.
Literally, they're in the middle of Calbert's talking, oh, hey, they go to the other time, blah, blah, and literally in the middle of a sentence, they just go to commercial.
Yeah.
And then there was a Don Callis promo where
they didn't want you flipping, pretty much.
Yeah, because all of a sudden, literally, he gets 5 words into his promo, and they cut to commercial, but he's still on the screen, so you can't hear what he's saying. But you got Takeshita holding up signs like he's Sammy Guevara,
right?
So that was clever.
Yes.
So I mean, literally every single commercial break gave you a reason to keep watching.
Yes,
which
it was out of the box thinking. It was a risk,
and I'll bet it worked. Because it was the first time they tried it, and also because I think AEW fans are less likely to tune to NXT than NXT fans are to tune to AEW. That's just a gut feeling I have, but I don't know that for sure.
I think tomorrow's gonna be stupid. Once the numbers come out,
no matter what happens.
But I think there was a lot of buzz for this NXT show because of the push, and it was cheap and it was ridiculous. But both groups were doing cheap, ridiculous stuff. They were doing stunt casting. It was almost like a sweeps week type thing for both of them, even though sweeps week really doesn't exist anymore. But
and we're the winners for it.
No, well, yes, podcaster. I don't know if the fans are the winners. I think podcasters are the winners here.
Could be. Well, the funny thing is too, because I think a lot of the people, and again, it may just be the circles you run in, but I think a lot of the people that I interact with online, they don't even normally watch NXT. So I don't think they would have been watching this week, even with all the Gaga, because they don't watch WWE even.
Right.
So
I have a lot more WWE fans in my
okay.
Shake Them Ropes show. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. So they started out, it was a different open as well. It was a cold open. Christian in the control center cut a promo on Swerve and Danielson. He brought up how Swerve lost the match for him at All In. And he also brought up that Danielson talks about being the number one wrestler in the world, but that's him because he's the top champion in this company. And he mentioned a little birdie when he was talking about Danielson. So, he's talking about his daughter. And I'm sure now that Danielson's won, he's going to bring up his dead father in a promo. And it so happens his dead father's named Buddy, that's
coming Friday.
Yeah. Oh, Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
And I thought that kind of gave away that Danielson was winning. Of course, I just gave away that Danielson was winning. And he says he'll come out later and elaborate about those 3 little words that he gave Copeland last week. And he says, one of you assholes, play the opening credits. And he also claimed credit for the 30-minute commercial free. And he also pointed out that he's the face of TNT, even though they're on TBS, which is always kind of funny.
I hope he makes a mistake. He goes, I'm the face of True TV.
Oh, that'd be great. So they started out with Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland. They had an excellent match, just an excellent match. They it's kind of started out slow. They're just kind of working, a match. Danielson was selling his arm and then his ribs later on. One thing I thought was weird was he did his spot where he goes, it's time to kick, where he goes, it's time to kick his fucking head in. But he only said kick his head in. And I don't know if that's because he's supposed to be a babyface or what. Or maybe they have a direction. Hey, no more F words.
He's a father. He needs to. No, baby faces don't say effing.
But normally the crowd pops for that, but they didn't pop this time. And I don't know if it's because he didn't swear or because they couldn't hear him or if it's just a shitty crowd. I'm not sure. But
crowd was a little weird at times. So yeah.
Yeah, they were. They were. The kicks, they got slower as it went on because Danielson was selling. He ended up getting a label lock on Swerve. Swerve got to the ropes. Then Danielson went for Kimura, but Swerve got to the ropes again. He starts running the ropes, but he fell after running into it with his ribs. I thought that was good. Swerve hit a house call and a Swerve stomp, but Danielson kicked out. That was awesome. Swerve got another great near fall with a reverse power bomb. Then Nana comes out. He distracts the ref. Swerve grabbed the crown, but Hangman Page appeared out of nowhere, showed up, and he took it away. And Danielson hit the Basako knee and got the win. I thought, the ending was, they were trying to further an angle, between Hangman and Danielson. I thought they kind of booked themselves into a corner with these matches because when you mentioned the matches last week, I'm like, right away, I'm thinking, okay, wait a second. You can't beat Swerve. But you're not beating Danielson, and Danielson Christian makes so much sense because of the dead father. So it's got to be Danielson. And then Hangman and Jay White, you can't beat Jay White right now. And Hangman can't lose twice in a row. So, I think in that case, they just, they
Paul, I wish I had special effects right now. I do that thing like from Beautiful Mind or that Lindsay Wagner thing where you have all these like formulas coming out of your head and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's what it was, but that's what I was thinking. And it kind of played out. This was the way out of it. We had Hangman get involved here, or we had Swerve get involved here, and then later on Hangman got involved. So, but other than that, it was a great match.
Yeah, I thought this was a really fun match for these two. I liked that commentary put over the bad arm a lot.
Yep.
I thought that was strong. I liked that Hangman came out and was tired of the and tried to stop Nana's interference here.
Yeah, that
probably it probably should have. Blackpool Combat Club probably should have been out there with Bryan Danielson. That's kind of a logical hole there, because that's the whole point of having the Blackpool Combat Club is to watch
and to have Hangman helping Danielson is have they settled their differences yet? I guess they kind of shook hands, didn't they, after Stadium Stampede?
Possibly. I think they did. I don't remember that far back. But the matches, I mean, look, Swerve is on a roll right now and on a run.
Yeah.
I don't. I have a bit of a quibble. I kind of disagree with the. I like Nana. I think they should cut back on the dancing. I think they should
and you even had Swerve. You even had Swerve doing it during the match.
I think they should have it be one of those things where, okay, now people like it. Now we're not going to give it to him because he's a heel and he can do it at special times and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. And as he explained, I like the dichotomy of goofy manager and super serious heel. I think that's okay. But I think they're just doing it now way too much. It's kind of overwhelming the gimmick. So I would, I'd do a less is more thing, but Swerve, he's found something here. I think the promos could use a little bit more, evil is the word I was going to use, dread, something like that. But other than that, I had no problem with this. I like this a lot.
This would have been one of the better matches on most pay-per-views. It was better than anything on Fastlane this weekend. Then Danielson cut a promo in the camera, told Christian he's coming for him. And then they just totally focused on Hangman after the match. He tossed the crown back in the ring and he left through the crowd. Then we got a Samoa Joe video package, similar to last week's. It was awesome. It says the king of TV, soon to be the AEW champion. They showed highlights of the title match with MJF. Saturday on Collision, I start my road back to the title. I take what I want from anyone I want to. And on Saturday, I'm going to begin my ascension towards greatness. This was beautiful.
Oh, yeah, no. These things have been some of the best pro wrestling stuff in a while.
Yeah, this is great. And hopefully they continue. And hopefully we build to another match because that first one was great. Then we got Chris Jericho and Powerhouse Hobbs. Holy crap, this match. So when they announced this match, I thought, if there's one thing you got to do, and it's got to be a destruction.
Murder death.
Powerhouse Hobbs. Yeah.
Yes.
And it pretty much was that. Jericho actually got a couple mini comebacks, which honestly we could have done without. He hit him. I think because I wrote every one of them down. I think he hit him with 6 or 7 spine busters, and every one of them Jericho sold worse than the last one. And I thought, like, Jericho has never in his life looked older than he looked here, and that was by design. And I guess technically he's never been older than he was today.
He will never be older than he is today.
Well, tomorrow he will be.
Well, no, tomorrow's another day, so he'll never be as old as he is today.
Yeah,
always.
And so then, after the spine busters weren't working, Jericho got his mini comeback. Then he starts hitting them with what do you call that? Like a power slam? Like he just kind of pick him up, kind of almost like a reverse Samoan drop, where he like just falls forward onto him. Yeah, where he like picked him up and then threw him down and landed on him. I wrote down power slam, but hit him with like
that's
3
not exactly
of those.
A power slam. A power slam is more like when you're scooping him and throwing him over. It's just
I don't know what you call it. And Excalibur always has a name for these things, and he didn't have a name for this. But he did the same move 3 times, and he's trash talking him the whole way. He's like, "It's over, Chris," and he's like, Aubrey was the ref, and he's like, "Tell her you quit," and getting right in his face. He's like kneeing him in the ribs. And and then he finally hits that last one, and he covered him with a knee on his face.
Twan has a good day. Yeah, it's what Mark Henry called the world's strongest.
Oh yeah, the world's strongest time. Absolutely, thanks, Twan. That's what it was. It was just perfect. And the only thing I would have done differently here is I would have had in the post-match attack when he was attacking Jericho, I would have had Kenny come out with a chair and chase off Hobbs, because that, after the angle they did last week, but Kenny wasn't there, I guess, tonight. Maybe he was on NXT. I haven't watched that yet, so I don't know. This was perfect. This was not a 5-star match, but it was perfect. I was amazed, impressed, and I loved it.
I think Jericho got too much. I think he kicked out 2 times too many. It felt like a longer match than it should have been. And it wasn't a long match, but it felt long because of all the kickouts. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. We don't need to protect Jericho this much right now. We can make up some story about how in the 6-man he was injured or something to that effect later and retcon it or something. But when you compare it to what Big Bill and Ricky Starks did on Collision to FTR, this should have been a much bigger destruction of Chris Jericho. And I just thought we didn't even even if you had done something where he splashes him when Jericho's back is turned and it throws him off for a second and you just continue to pummel him. Jericho needed no offense in this. He didn't need this many kickouts.
It was 7 minutes and 24 seconds. And it could
have been 5 minutes and 24 seconds too long to me.
Yeah.
I mean, this should have been dead.
What it could have been and maybe should have been was you brought up the FTR match. I'll go a little further back and I'll bring up, this is one of my favorite AEW matches ever, was the Cody Rhodes and Brody Lee match where Brody Lee won the TNT title from him.
Yes.
Where it was just a complete and utter destruction. I think it was like 3 minutes. And shocking to the point. And I think they got the reaction, they got the shocked reaction that they were going for. But I think and maybe part of the reason was they were reveling in the booze. This got a lot of heat. This was one of the most heated things on the show. And a lot of it was for Callis, but I think a lot of it was for Hobbs too.
The Valiant fight aspect of it from Jericho needed something. It needed a promo or it needed a shortcut. I don't know which one exactly, because I don't necessarily want Excalibur harping on, he took the easy, cheap way out, blah, 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 the whole time. Because you want that, destruction and you want it to be real. But I think maybe Jericho there needed to be a reason why Jericho was allowed to put up this much offense, and there needed to be some sort of promo beforehand where he was angry at, to get there. But I just, watching this, it just felt like, Jericho just doesn't feel like losing without getting some of his stuff in. So
the funny thing is, I think your main takeaway from the match, from anybody watching it, was a complete and utter destruction.
Yeah.
And you barely even remember the comebacks that Jericho did. So because of that, why even bother doing them? Just do the complete destruction.
One kick out. Maybe he should have been allowed one kick out. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, or maybe one desperation spot where he low blows him or something. And, he goes for the, Judas effect and Hobbs just ducks out, or, does the moonsault and Hobbs just swats him away like Samoa Joe or something.
No, but
but it was great.
Week 2 of the rebuild, it's working. So I'm good with it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, Hobbs is 10 times a bigger star than he was 2 weeks ago, in my opinion. Maybe that's
when he was screwing around with Harley Cameron and QTV.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty fair. And then after the match, he picked him up, gave him another World's Strongest Slam, and Jericho is, I wrote down, almost literally dead, and he walked out to a course of booze. And great segment. And obviously, I think we're heading towards Powerhouse Hobbs and Kenny Omega at Full Gear. And Hobbs should win that, I think, but we'll see. Then we get a Cole video at Roddy's house. Cole still hasn't got his surgery. Roddy asked him to cut the grass. Cole's like, why can't they? And he points to David and Bennett. They're just standing there, and Roddy doesn't really have a good answer for him. It's kind of funny. The one thing I did like was Cole was kind of it's this surreal thing that's going on, and Cole is treating it as if it's real. So I kind of actually like that part of it. And so they're playing this weird music, and he's cutting the grass one-handed on the scooter that Roddy gave him last week. Roddy says, "You missed a spot." And he's like, "I'll get it on the way back." And they just kept doing these weird camera angles all over the place. And then they're done. And Cole says, "I got to go home." He says, "I've been wearing this shirt for 2 weeks." And then he's like, no, don't worry. He says, I got something for you. And they go back into the place, and he's wearing the same neck strong shirt that the Kingdom's wearing. Roddy is still in his hospital gown and his glasses. And I don't know why he's wearing a hospital gown at home, but
comedy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised Cole didn't bring that up, but, and Cole asked, what's with this giraffe? And Matt Taven says it's Roddy's get well present, and he says the giraffe is the most neck strong animal out there. And then he asked Roddy, like, what's with this place? You don't have a television, you have no cell service. And he says, I can't watch Dynamite. I want to see what's going on with Max. And Roddy says, we don't need TV. TV is the devil. And then Adam's like, okay, I gotta go, Roddy. I gotta get surgery. And then he's like, Adam, I just need one more thing. And then Cole's like, oh my God. And then the scene ends. Now, I am starting to think that Adam Cole's not really hurt. Like, I know that he everyone insists that he really is, but why hasn't he got his surgery yet? Or did they just film these a long time ago? Or has he actually got his surgery and they're just not telling us? Like, I don't know. I'm very confused by this, but I don't know.
I'm still leaning towards this was a work. And he had a bad sprain, but I don't think just
like
watching
he doesn't really need 2 surgeries.
Yeah, just watching that I mean, I watched the injury over again, and it does not look like, I mean, it looks like he rolled his ankle is what it looked like.
Yeah.
I don't find these vignettes funny.
You
pointed
I probably
out
didn't find it. I didn't find it as funny as it probably sounded like I did when I was recapping it. I will say that.
Because the thing is, you pointed out why we don't feel it's not funny for Adam Cole to say yes to these ridiculous things that are being asked of him without some sort of reason why he's saying yes.
And why isn't Roddy asking these other 2 idiots?
Well, no, that part is fine to call out, and I thought that was good. And then but they need more ridiculous answers for it.
Yeah, like,
it's like,
I'm
they
allergic to grass or something.
They have gout or something like that.
Yeah,
just something ridiculous. You have to do that. But the Cole doing things he is physically not supposed to be doing, while also on a scooter, and it being dangerous for him to do it. There has to be more. There has to be either a justification or more pushback. I don't know which one on this would work necessarily. And again, the close-ups are killing me. The close-ups are just so. I know how many blackheads each of these guys has now because because the camera is right in their face. Watching drips of sweat. Some of them have clogged pores. I just, it's preposterous. The meta call out of I've been wearing this shirt for the last 2 weeks, kind of funny. But overall, I get. They think this is much funnier and clever than it is. Let's put it that way. That's the tone that I'm getting out of this.
Yeah.
And
where's
it's turning me off. It's turning me off because they go, we think this is some of the most clever stuff we've ever recorded. I'm just going, comedy has laugh lines and this doesn't. So
I will say that the quarter hours on these are not great. The MJF stuff is doing good. But once you separate Cole from him and put him with the Kingdom, not so much. There is a person in our Discord that hates these and the Tony Storm stuff even more than I do. And I pitched something
Larry?
to him, and no,
okay.
I pitched something to him that I think they're gonna. I thought they might do, and he's like, oh my God, they're gonna do it. And it's basically the next one is gonna be there at Whole Foods, and Roddy's making him do his shopping for him. And while he's doing the shopping, and Roddy's like, Adam, I need this. Adam, I need that. And then you've got Taven and Bennett are like stealing stuff from the snack aisles and eating them while they're shopping.
He's moved. Well, hold on, but that doesn't go to progression of comedy then, because what we've had is we've had him move furniture, and then we've had him mow the lawn. So we need something more physically taxing. That's almost impossible for him to do.
So maybe he's got to do his roof.
He has to dig a backyard pool or something. This is what this is leading to. You can't just go backwards and go, okay, shop for my groceries or something. This has to be something even more preposterous that he should not be doing in any way.
So my pitch would have got turned down in the writer's room then.
In a comedy writer's room, yes. In a pro wrestling writer's room, they'd probably call it genius. So
all right. So Excalibur had told us earlier that they were going to explain how Orange Cassidy got his title shot, even though we advertised Rey Fenix and Jon Moxley. And he just said, oh, well, Moxley's not medically cleared, so Orange hadn't got a rematch since he lost. So that was your explanation. All right, makes sense. The only thing it doesn't make sense is why Moxley even had the shot in the first place, which Orange Cassidy brought up in a promo last week. He's like, why is he getting his, I had the belt
and it's funny because throughout the pre-show, they were plugging Moxley versus Fenix. But we'll talk, and then they were saying, but we'll talk about that match later. And then they announced later in the pre-show that he was going to be unable to go.
Wow. So, and for those that don't know, and I think a lot of people probably don't, he was supposed to wrestle on Sunday for Wrestling Revolver against Gringo Loco. And this is a match they'd been advertising for months. And even last week on Wrestling Observer Live, Brian Alvarez was having guests from the Wrestling Revolver shows all week. And he gets Renee on there on Thursday. And he's, is John going to wrestle on Sunday? And Renee's like, you probably have to ask him about that. Like, she doesn't want to answer the question. So immediately at that point, Brian Alvarez, he's a pro. He stopped advertising that match because I think he had a pretty good idea. Okay, she's telling me it's not happening without telling me it's not happening. Mm-hmm. And they continued to advertise it until the day of the show when Moxley came out and told the crowd he wasn't medically cleared. Right. So I don't like that, but I get it. I mean, and at least they explained it. And so, yeah, Orange Cassidy gets the title shot. He came out to the ring with his backpack that he's carried the belt in. They showed highlights. It was 1 year ago this week when he won the belt when he beat Pac for it. So, and then we got the match, Orange Cassidy and Rey Fenix. And this was, how oftentimes I'll say, oh, Orange Cassidy and Rey Fenix, close your eyes and picture an Orange Cassidy Rey Fenix match. And that's what this was. That is not what this was.
No,
they started out throwing punches like they're Don Fry and Yoshihiro Takayama, which is, completely out of character for both of them. Orange Cassidy wasn't doing any of his standard stuff, like none of the hands in the pants, the weak kicks, none of that. Phoenix is throwing clotheslines like he's Bradshaw, and he starts selling his back, and then they kind of started doing their match, and Phoenix did his rope walk, but, every once in a while he would be doing one of his signature spots, and then he kind of just collapsed from his back. And the crowd was totally into Orange Cassidy. They're chanting freshly squeezed all the time. Phoenix went for a muscle buster. I don't know why. And of course, his back gave out. Then Orange Cassidy hit a diving DDT on Phoenix. Then he hit a tilt-a-whirl DDT off the ropes for 2. Went for the orange punch, but Phoenix hit him with a super kick. Then Orange Cassidy hits beach break, and Phoenix kicked out. Then he hit the orange punch, and he hit the mouse trap, and he got the pin. And it was a total... this was almost as big of a one-sided match as the Hobbs Jericho match was. And Orange Cassidy wrestled the most serious match he's probably ever wrestled in his life. And I thought it was good.
I liked it. You missed how the match was set up on the pre-show then, right? Or did they show that?
I did, yeah.
Dynamite? I'm trying to remember. Okay. Yeah,
well, no, they didn't. Yeah.
Okay, so what they did was they cut a vignette where Renee's backstage with Tony Khan.
Okay.
And Tony Khan makes the announcement Jon Moxley won't be able to do the match tonight. And Hook comes in with his bag of, I believe this is the sweet chili Doritos that he is fond of. A very good flavor.
Not the plain Lay's?
No. This is the purple bag.
Renee was very smart to turn those down last week, by the way.
Ed goes, hey, how about my boy Orange Cassidy here? He never lost or whatever. And Tony's sitting there kind of anticipating the lines and stuff. So it's he's an amateur. He can do that. But he offers the match to Orange Cassidy, who's kind of like, well, I guess, I can give it to somebody else. No, I'll take it.
Okay. So
I think the story was this was quote unquote motivated Orange Cassidy. And this is what we'd get when he's motivated.
Well, the thing is, what you described sounds like Orange Cassidy.
Yes.
And what you saw in this match was not what we normally see.
You didn't
get
Cassidy. The antics. You got focused, almost focused, I guess.
And you had Phoenix selling.
That one rope walk when he did the kick and missed by a half a mile, and everybody sold it.
Well,
and he had and what? Oh, Excalibur called it a glancing blow. That was just
that's usually the clue. Yeah.
Yeah. But you didn't get a lot of that. You didn't get you didn't get as much of the flying as you thought you would between these two, but it was still a fun match. A lot of reversals.
It wasn't very long. I got the card up here. What was it?
I was shocked by the confetti, and then Penta enters the ring and then does nothing, even though he's kind of staring at him and kind of crowding him out in the ring. I was like, okay, that's
how long do you think this match was?
6 minutes.
Keeping in mind Jericho and Hobbs was 7.5 minutes.
9?
4.5.
4.5. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this match was probably the length that the Jericho match should have been.
Not including entrances. Okay.
No. That's just the match. That's just the match. But they packed a lot into that 4.5 minutes. So they celebrated. The confetti came out. Penta ran out to check on Fenix, and Abrahantes was there as well. And then best friends Rocky Romero and Hook were out to congratulate Orange Cassidy. I'm not sure why Rocky Romero was there, but probably Wrestling Ring of Honor or something. And then they go backstage to Toni Storm, and I think this was the first commercial break.
Yes.
Backstage with Toni Storm, and she's with RJ City. They're all in black and white. She says she's made a short film. It's called Lover's Lament, and of course, it's the only type of film that is worth anything. It's a silent film. And they cut to commercial, and I fast forwarded.
What was the other part of her promo, though? There was something that stood out to me. It's not. I want to say it's not about the matches. It's about the facials or something like that. It was some weird. It was almost a meta commentary on WWE philosophy of doing characters and stuff. It was very. It stood out to me as almost a pot shot across the bow. But I gotta give credit for the unrepentant stupidity of this silent film. Because
I didn't watch it, so
I watched it and it did nothing.
Okay.
And at one point it was parallel to the commercial, because the commercial had somebody driving and she was driving like it was auto insurance. I'm not sure if they synced that up on purpose, but again, there was a point of the first film where she left the screen for like 15 to 20 seconds, and I'm just like, did she just? And then it was just for the gag type thing. There was nothing important in either of these silent films, but I watched them with interest because, oddly enough, I was more interested when they did this than when they do a picture-in-picture and do a match.
Yeah, because I mean, again, she's hot. When I say hot, I mean the character's hot. I mean,
it's just I can't concentrate on the match when there's something else on this left-hand of the screen screaming at me to buy pizza or insurance.
Yeah,
so.
But in this, you could. So, they get back from break, and Matt Sydal is coming down to the ring to his music. And Wardlow's already in the ring. We didn't get an entrance for Wardlow. I don't know if it was maybe.
No. We did. No. You're mixing that up. Sydal got in there, but Wardlow, they put on his music. I missed Sydal's entrance at all. That must have been a fight thing or something because.
Oh, okay. So
Sydal didn't get an entrance at all except the intro.
All right.
And Wardlow.
So did. Wardlow did get an entrance. Okay, so I mixed that up. I would say like Wardlow just kind of looks like a bigger jacked Sydal, honestly. But so he comes in, he does 4 power bombs, and the ref stopped it. That was it. That was the whole match. And then he exited through the crowd. So I assume he's gonna end up with Christian's group. Because he needs a father, but
taking over for our Luchasaurus,
maybe a tag team. Luchasaurus and Wardlow would be a pretty kick-ass tag team, I think.
I go with that too. I'm hesitant. We've been down this road before.
Oh, I know. They do this, and then he'll get a title match, and then we won't see him again for 6 months.
Yeah, we'll have him win the title, and then we won't have him defend the title ever.
Yeah, Excalibur literally says to the back, and to remarkable Renee Paquette, and we're gonna get a medical update on Chris Jericho. Chris is being attended to by a doctor while they're surrounded by like technical equipment, and he's like sitting on a box, and I was like, they don't have a trainer's room or like somewhere that they could do this.
No, this is a little mom and pop shop company. This is a small little indie, not backed by billions of dollars or anything like that.
No, not at all. Daniel Garcia comes up, and he's
the only medical equipment they have is a hacksaw and a stick.
Yeah, and that kinesia tape. So Daniel Garcia comes up, and he's going to ask him, and Matt Menard comes right behind him. He's like, "What are you doing?" He says, well, geez, this is our friend. We've been with him for years. And Menard says, we're better than this. And he walks away, and Garcia just kind of looks at him, and he looks the other way, and then he just follows Menard. And Jericho's, no reaction to any of this. It's really interesting what they're doing with Daniel Garcia. He got
interesting
pinned.
is the word you're going to use. Okay, continue.
Well, I'm just going to say, it sucks to be Garcia. A year ago, he beat Bryan Danielson, and now he's
1 foot out the door.
Yeah.
Has to be, because he took 4 finishers in a match and got beat.
Yeah. And I've heard, this is the start of a big push. I'm like, it's a big push out the door, I think is what it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
But so it's very interesting. But
although he's gonna walk into NXT doing that dance, and he'll be mad over.
I think he'll do real well there, and I think he could do real well here if they pushed him right, but they're not. So I think that hadn't have beat Danielson, and then what they've done with him since is like promotional malpractice, in my opinion.
Yes, it is. It's character.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm a big fan of his, but so I'm hoping whatever happens, whether it's AEW or WWE, that is good stuff. He's very young. I think he's only 24.
I think he's miscast, and I think the problem is you need him as a killer, and you're trying to make Hobbs into a killer. You need to put him over as a technical killer somewhere. And
maybe they should have put him in the freaking Blackpool Combat Club instead of Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah.
I say that at the time?
But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like you stick him on Collision, you have him cut a promo where it's like, all right, I've learned everything I can from being a sports entertainer. Now it's time for me to be the technical badass not technical wrestler, technical badass that I am, and just have him break a few arms. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, that'd be great. Next up, Hangman Page and Jay White. The Guns and Juice Robinson came out in tricycles. I have no idea why, but it was funny.
Those weren't tricycles; those were big wheels.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Yes.
And they had the card blade with them, and this was an eliminator match for MJF's belt that Jay White stole. And Taz had to remind us, for those that might be tuning in for the first time, Jay White isn't really the champ. And so they had a match. It was real good. It's like similar to the Danielson Strickland match. I mean, the match itself wasn't the same at all, but it was similar in the sense that it was like a pay-per-view match, so that that you would see on pay-per-view. It did go through 2 commercial breaks, so in that sense, probably as a TV match, it wasn't as good. But it was this was one where close your eyes and picture a Hangman Page Jay White match, and that's what you got. Jay White wasting time, Hangman Page, just setting things up. He was selling his knee for most of the match, which I think dates back to the match they had at Wrestle Dream. And Jay White was continually targeting the knee. Hangman was going for his signature moves, and sometimes he's hit them, sometimes he wouldn't, but he kind of always come down selling his knee. So the finisher spots came where Jay White went for a floater, but Hangman powered out. Jay White took out the knee again, hit a sleeper suplex, but then Hangman hit him with a snap German. Hangman was setting up the buckshot, but he couldn't do it. Jay White went for the Blade Runner. Hangman hit the Deadeye. Bullet Club Gold just started distracting the ref, and they counted, but he only got 2. Then Nana showed up at ringside and tried to hit Hangman, and Jay White rolled him up for the pin and got the 3 count. The other thing of note that I will say is the Juice Robinson and the Guns were unbelievable at ringside. They were sitting down on the mats with their backs to the barricades through almost the whole match, and Juice Robinson was like sticking his legs up in the air and like pointing at his taint, and the Guns were like, we're not doing anything, and it was they were so great.
It was set up by a remarkable thing where Jay White tells them, I don't want you guys interfering, go stand over there.
Yeah.
And so children in a kindergarten class.
Yeah,
pretending to behave themselves. They go over and they all sit. They are all standing shoulder by shoulder and like slide down the guardrail to sit down. Then, and that's and Juice is always yelling something.
Yeah,
that you can hear. I liked this. This crowd didn't get into this match.
No,
until he kept teasing the buckshot.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a good sign for Jay White. I just, it's one of those things where it's like nobody was there to see the match between Hangman and Jay White. They were there to see Hangman. And
well, they've got 5 weeks to build up this match. So
yes, it was 6 last week. They've now wasted yet another week. And they've actually dug themselves a hole thanks to the quarters crap that we went over earlier. But okay, the match happened. And I liked the intra show story where Hangman is there for that first match with Danielson, and then Nana comes back later for Hangman's match to try and get revenge. I thought that was fine.
And then they were both out at the end as well.
Yes.
So this whole show was very much like the Hangman, Swerve, and Tony Storm show. Like that. I mean, clear, like they were multiple segments, and I will say that is another change in AEW where they are focusing on people throughout the show as opposed to you're out for your segment and then we don't see you again. And I think that's good. Like it keeps people tuned in. And maybe that is something they're getting from WWE. I don't know, because WWE does that, but it's also something that's been done traditionally in wrestling.
WWE is having a very good run of having moving parts in singular angles, and they haven't gotten to that point yet. This makes it feel like there's only 6 people on the show sometimes, though. Out of a roster of 100 and however many.
You got one women's match in every show, and somehow you got to figure out a way to get Tony Storm involved in it.
Yes. That's pretty much it. I mean, yeah. Let's get to this promo that was dreadful.
All right. So the promo, Jay's celebrating and MJF's music hits, and he comes out and he's like, "Cut my music." And he calls Jay a son of a bitch. He said, "You wanted a main event match. You got it. You're welcome. But give me back the world title, the Triple B." Crowd's chanting, "Give it back." MJF shuts it down right away. He's not playing Sing Along with the Rock this week.
Yeah.
He's like,
he doesn't say, he doesn't do any of the, "Hey, are there any devil worshippers here?" He is all, I loved this MJF.
All business. He says, "Jay White, you took it to, what did I write down here? Sorry. No. So he's, "Give it back. Be a man." And then Jay White says, "I took this to 4-0 and repeat yourself. I couldn't hear you very well." And he says, "These people don't want to hear from MJF. They want to hear from JAY." And he tells the crowd to shoosh like he's Chad Gable. Crowd's booing heavily. And he says, "Your scumbag wants the Triple B back, the Bang Bang belt." I kind of like that. And the crowd's chanting, "Shut the fuck up." And then Jay looks at them. He says, "You know what? I was going to say yes, but you're too rude. So no, I'm not giving it back." And then Max says, "Okay, I'll be the bigger man." He says, "I know you better than you because I was you. Lord knows I'm trying. You're the guy that doesn't give a damn about everyone else. You'll do whatever it takes. Use and abuse people. Those guys deep down, you could give a shit about any of them." He says, "You're using them to get where you want to be, and that's right out of the MJF playbook. But unlike you, every day I try to be a better man. It's hard and I hate it. But for the first time in my life, when I look in a mirror, I don't punch the reflection, and I've earned these people's respect. Jay White, there's 2 things I care about. My brother, Adam Cole, and he's dealing with that injury, and I hate that." And he says, "And if dealing with your shit isn't enough," and he says, "and your title, and that title," he says, "you call it a belt. That's my livelihood and my legacy. When you win the AEW world title, it makes you the best wrestler in the goddamn world." They bleeped out that, but all his other swears they allowed. I thought that was interesting.
There's a couple other swears that they bleep, but yeah.
Did they? Okay. He says, "I hate your guts. If those guys weren't surrounding you, I've already broken your back and your neck and taken back what's mine. I know how talented you are. You're next level and elite. Someday you'll join the exclusive club of being an AEW world champ, but that day is not today. Do you understand me? Do the hard thing once in your life. Dig deep. Be a man. Show some respect to the sport, to AEW, and to these fans, and give me back what you have not yet earned." And they're all laughing at him. And White says, "I didn't earn this, huh?" He says, "And you're just asking me to give it back to you?" He says, "Thanks for coming and asking me face to face instead of jumping me from behind in your cute little devil mask like you did before. But you can't just ask for this. You have to earn it." And he says, "You have a match coming up. Just be patient. You'll get your chance and you'll fail. Max, if you can't be patient, if you can't wait, come down and take it. You don't have your goon squad with you, so you're not coming down." He said, but if you can find 3 people who can tolerate you and team up with you, maybe you can fight us and get your belt back." And they should have just ended the segment there. But they didn't. So before we get to Mr. Robinson, anything you want to add about that you haven't already said about this MJF?
You reading the text of the promo, really, it's weird because I thought Jay White came off as notoriously lightweight in this promo. and not in
promo.
control, and a little bit too whimsical at times. Like you reading the text makes it not seem as bad as I think it came off to me. I don't know what it was, but it was just, yeah. I get that Jay White was trying to do the I'm the one in control here and you're all angry and you need to calm down type of a thing, but there was something to it that just kind of really made me seem like he was being almost too whimsical about it. And I was just like, okay, I didn't like Jay White here at all. I thought he didn't hold up his end of the bargain for some reason, even though the text of the promo is good. And what it should be.
I'm not a Jay White fan.
I think maybe you need to connect the beating he took and him being a little bit more angry about that, as opposed to just dismissing it. You and your little goon squad aren't here. That kind of thing. As opposed to, no, I did this because you kicked my ass with 4 other guys and I'm keeping this until something like that. Yeah. I don't know necessarily, but there was just something wrong with it, I thought. And it was just, it felt like MJF was trying to sell the hate and the fight, and Jay White was just kind of blowing it off and not really giving into it necessarily. Like you said, 5 weeks. Maybe I wanted angry Jay White here. Maybe I wanted more in control Jay White, but the Jay White part just didn't work for me.
Sideswipe, Jason brings up the problem with Jay White and Bullet Club Gold is their DX 1998, which works for upper mid-carders. To be a main eventer, you need your Triple H in 1999 pivot. That's a good point. I would actually compare them more in a way to the Rock and the Nation just before that, whereas Jay White is the Rock before he became the Rock, where he's trying to find himself. But
the problem with that is you had Farouk, who was
I'm talking after they got rid of Farouk. So when it was just the Rock and D'Lo and Godfather and Owen, I think was in there, right, for a little while.
You're thinking the Rock Crush Owen one.
Yeah, but this DX thing, maybe that is a better comparison because for a while there, Triple H was, before he got serious. I guess it was kind of when they kind of were half adjacent to the corporation and and it was that, like, that could be. But again, I like Jay White here, so I don't know. And Matt, points out that this is the first segment that got him hyped to see the match, and he thought Jay White did well. I said, I like Jay White, but
I might be wrong. I might be wrong here. I mean, it's possible. I'm just watching.
We'll see. What? Yeah. The key will be what kind of reactions he gets the next time we see him.
Mm-hmm.
If the crowd is taking him more seriously, then then everyone did their job. It's the point, and all wrestling goes back and forth, segments that go too long and never end at the peak. This was constant when I used to watch WWE with their 20-minute opening segments. Again, I thought the peak of this.
He's correct on that too, because for me, I always liked that the guys don't talk to each other except maybe but once in the entire build, that they're just coming out to whatever studio wrestling they're at. They're looking in the camera and they're talking to the guy as opposed to having a conversation. That to me works a lot better in a build than the back and forth dialogue. But here, of course, I'm also told that wrestling has passed me by. So continue.
They could have ended it at the peak, and I thought the peak was him telling MJF, "Go see if you can find any friends and you can fight us."
Yes,
but Juice,
you have a present for them. Yes.
Juice Robinson brings up that next week we're going to have a Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal for MJF's ring. Now, this is usually a little bit later in the year, but they're doing it here. Mm-hmm. And they later announced that the winner is going to face MJF for the ring on October 25th. So Juice says, I'm going to throw my name in and I'm going to win that Battle Royal. And then we're going to have everything you love, you idiot. And he says, but I'm going to give you a real present, something you're going to like. And he pulls out a roll of quarters with Friedman written across it. He says, I got $10 worth right here, and I'm gonna break it against your jaw. And after we ruin your life, Max, if you come at me, Max says, if you come at me with those quarters, I'll ruin your life, you piece of shit. And he throws the mic down and walks off. And Jay White says, this goes to them and it goes to you. We got 2 words for you, guns up. And that's it. So I thought MJF sold the quarters thing pretty well, but definitely should have done it.
Yeah, we talked for 15 minutes about that. We don't need to go back in, but he sold it well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I think Juice wins the ring and then gets the match against Max and loses, and that sets up Jay. But that's me. That's what I would do, I think.
They cut to commercial in the middle of Excalibur talking again, and then I guess at some point during the commercial they started airing another Tony Storm movie. Again, I wasn't watching.
This one was even more preposterous because she decides to break the fourth wall, and I think she says "I love you," and she goes in to make out for the camera, and then it just cuts, and then it shifts over to the commercial full time. It was
okay, weird. They come back.
I'm here for her unrepentant stupidity. I just don't want her involved in the title chase.
I'm so over Tony Storm. But I will say there's one thing I like about the act. Well, actually, there's more than one thing I like about the act. But what she's doing for the finish, like with the close up, and then she does the running hip attack, and then right into the Storm Zero. I love that. And that's, I mean, that's going to be over as a finishing sequence. Like it probably already is.
Yeah, no, it is.
So, yeah. So next we got Hikaru, Shida, and Saraya, and this was bizarre. Saraya just beat the shit out of her over and over and over again. This was not dissimilar to Powerhouse Hobbs and Chris Jericho. Saraya got a couple comebacks, probably a little stronger than Jericho, in the comebacks, but and then they cut to a point before the commercial where Ruby Soho had been barred from ringside. And someone covered up completely in black approached Shida, and of course she has a spray can, and she removes her hood, and it's Ruby, and then out comes Tony Storm with a shoe, and she starts beating on her, and she threw her into the crowd and chased her off as they went to commercial. And then they come back from commercial. It's just Saraya and Shida, and again, so Shida's just beating the crap out of her over and over again. Saraya got a couple comebacks. She ended up at one point, she hit the former page turner, I think, what's it called, the nightcap, and then Shida kicked out, and the crowd's chanting, "Let's go, Shida!" And then Saraya grabbed the spray paint and the kendo stick, and I think everyone thought, okay, the ref took the stick, Saraya sprayed her in the eye, and then she hit the nightcap again, but Shida kicked out. And then Saraya's doing the WWE shocked face thing, and the crowd's chanting "Holy Shida," and Taz is even chanting "Holy Shida." And then Shida hit the Falcon Arrow, but she only got 2. And then they did like the rolling reversal spot, and I was expecting, they're going to do like 5 or 6 of these, and then like Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn, and then they're going to stop, and the fans going to cheer. But on the second one, Shida just pinned her, and that was it. It was over. Shida's the new champ, 3-time champ now, I think. And yeah, Saraya won the belt in Wembley, lost in her first defense.
She didn't defend it before this? I thought she defended it.
Nope. I don't think so. Let me pull up. I got Cage Match right here. She might have defended it once.
I thought she defended it once, but I might be wrong.
She actually defended against Tony Storm at Grand Slam. My bad.
Yeah.
So the big, and that was it. The only other match she's even had since the thing was a 6-person match where the Outcast beat Britt, Hikaru, and Chris Statlander. So this almost came off like a write-off. Like, I don't know if it was, but
a little bit. I actually liked this.
Yeah, no, I did too. Like, I'm not. I thought it comes off like I didn't. I thought the Ruby spot was really well done, especially the paint right in the face. Good for Ruby for taking that. Yeah. There was a weird thing though in this match, and I don't know if you noticed it. I don't know if it's because we're now starting to notice that the crowds are a little smaller at Dynamite. Mm-hmm. So they're doing a lot more small venue stuff in terms of like banter between, like, Saraya not only was talking to Hikaru Shida in the ring, yelling at her, calling her a fat cow, blah blah blah. She was yelling at people in the audience too. And she's always done that. Well, I know she's always done that, but she made a point to do that. And it was like one of those things where I'm watching, I'm going, and I'm wondering, have they shifted strategy to small arena type work? Because you were getting a lot of that too. Like in the Orange Cassidy Phoenix match, he is yelling during those forearms, and you can hear it. And I'm just like, huh. I'm wondering like
if there's
studio wrestling.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking, and I'm like, almost empty studio wrestling too. It was very like
NXT.
like Bailey would do a lot of that. Bayley would always have a comment or something like that for everything in the match. That's why she was the best at it during the empty arena days from either company, in my opinion.
Charlotte was really good at that.
Charlotte was really good at it too. But yeah, it was just something. It was just kind of a weird thing about it. But look, if this is a write-off for Saraya, I think they've gotten all they can out of her. No offense to her.
I don't know what else you do with her. Yeah, unless she can be a manager.
She's not a great wrestler. She's not that great of a manager because she doesn't really cut.
Yeah,
great promo. She cuts, a good snide calling somebody baby girl. But that's about it.
I think she already I think we set her over under at 10.
Yeah,
I think she's already beat that. 15.
Yeah, no, I think they've gotten
she's had 13 matches in AEW. So
I am wondering when her contract is up. If it's soon,
I don't know. She debuted at Full Gear last year. So
okay, so if it was a 1-year deal, maybe she gets a swan song with Ruby in a tag match or something to that effect. But I don't see them re-signing her.
Yeah, and I mean, if it, I don't know if it was a 1-year contract or not, but I guess
if it's not, she may be sitting at home for a couple of years, and I don't think
they could bring her in, and they could link her with Mercedes.
They could.
Yeah, that could work. But yeah,
it won't work, but they could do that.
Then they cut to the announcers, and Excalibur announced that Jericho has been taken to a local medical facility. I thought that was weird because I assumed
they said hospital. They said hospital.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Okay, I guess I'm just got WWE brain, and I instantly think medical facility. But I thought that was weird because usually when they do that, there's a reason for it. Like that. Oh, we're gonna wonder later on why Jericho's not out there, and I mean would have been no reason for him to be out there. So
was this the time they also announced the Toys for Tots thing, or is that later in the
yes. So that was in the same spot. So Tony is so excited about this announcement at it's the most favorite announcement he's ever given, and I think it's 50,000 toys for kids. Is that what they said from TBS?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was nice.
It's very, very nice. And millions of poor children will be opening those gifts and going, they don't wrestle on SmackDown or Raw.
Who's this dinosaur?
But I was going to say, you know what Toni Storm has become is she's now female Danhausen. In a way.
Well, she's a better wrestler than he is.
No, she's a much better wrestler. Don't get me wrong, but it's like,
hey, we got
in terms of matches that aren't hers, she comes out to throw shoes at people and get the laughs and get them out of there.
We got a video that Danhausen coming back on one of the shows on the weekend. I can't remember. Yeah.
I didn't watch the weekend. I only watched that tag match on Collision. That's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, he's coming back, and it was it was done in a kind of a weird like an old time
oh no, I take that back. I saw part of this. Yeah,
and it was a song, and it was like Danhausen's coming back, Danhausen's something like that. It was I can't remember it, but it was good. It was very much in the spirit of Danhausen. So
yes,
very good, very evil. He'll be back. We got our rundown. Rampage, Gates of Agony against Claudio and Wheeler. Sky Blue and Emi Sakura. So that's for Jeff.
Yes.
Daniel Garcia, Daddy Magic, and Cool Hand Ange against the Hardys and Brothers Zay. Can we just get the Hardys off television? Like what? Jay Lethal and Trent Beretta. Give me the Dark Order. Anybody. But Collision, we're gonna see Christian and Bryan Danielson for the TNT title. That's all that's been announced for that show. And next week's Dynamite, they mentioned Juice Robinson spoiled it, but the Dynamite does in Battle Royal, and we'll get more matches announced on Rampage and Collision. So Matt says there's a red flag. What's the red flag? Was it a Jericho thing or what? I don't know. I'm sure he'll elaborate. And this is where Callis starts cutting a promo as they went to break, and then as I was fast forwarding, I saw a bunch of signs. So they seemed like they were mocking Sammy. In fact, I didn't read it. Even one of them even mentioned Sammy. So I think this was totally just mocking Sammy because he's injured. And back from break, and it was Renee with MJF in a hallway somewhere. She asked about the words from Juice Robinson and everything else that happened. MJF says, "I'm not in the mood." He says, "Normally I would be, I'd be talking up a storm, but I don't want to talk about this stuff right now." And then he said, "I just want to call my boy and get some advice." So he actually calls Adam, and Adam answers, and MJF's all excited. And he says, "Where you been?" He says, "No, I'm still at Roddy. He still needs help here." And then MJF's like melding, "Roddy? Like, you kidding me?" And he says, MJF says, "I've been attacked left and right. They stole the Triple B. Samoa Joe wants a title shot, apparently." And Cole's like, "I can't hear you. I can't hear you." And then all of a sudden the call breaks off. And so then he's just shaking his head, and the Acclaim shows up. And Max Caster offered to be partners with him because he said, Juice Robinson or, Juice and Jay said, you guys, you need a partner. And then Max just looks at him and he just shakes his head and walks away. And then Billy's like, "What are you doing offering up our services without talking to you? And what's your infatuation with him?" And he says, "Well, he's my friend and he doesn't have a lot of friends. And we trained together and we've been friends for 10 years. And I thought MJF didn't have any friends, but Caster said, and plus I like when he plays hard to get." And then Billy and Anthony just kind of walked away, shaking their heads. And I thought Max Caster could not have looked like a bigger geek in this segment than he's ever looked in his life.
This entire segment swerved the hell out of me. Because I thought when it was like I got a lot going on, it was going to be time for the, hey, you know what? That was out of line for Juice to do that there at this time and place. Blah. Instead, it was, I need to call Adam Cole. And then do wacky comedy with the Acclaimed. And I just went, huh. All right. Great.
When you described that segment last week, I mean, I was like, what are they doing? And then I watched it and I put out on Twitter, what are they doing? And somebody said to me that, this is clearly leading to a match with MJF and the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn against Bullet Club Gold. And it's like, it is? And apparently it is.
Well, no, Max Caster and MJF are doing this weird, the only way you're going to describe it is homoerotic thing on Twitter, where it's like, isn't he a good looking man? Yes. Isn't he a good looking? And they've now brought it onto television with no explanation.
Well, I mean, they're trying to explain it, but
no, they're not. They're just doing bits with Max and MJF. That's all they're doing.
He said, we've been friends, we trained together, and so I guess we're supposed to believe they
haven't brought up the gist of the tweets though. So
no. And Renee referred to them, and she said she's seen them, but they didn't explain them. Yeah. And I assume this is going to end up with them showing up to save him, in an attack at some point, and then they'll do the tag match. Maybe the Anthony Bowens and Juice Robinson will be the last two people in this battle royal.
Yeah, this also feels like it might be even a lead to the Kingdom versus the Acclaimed for the 6-man.
Or maybe the Acclaimed versus the Kingdom to see who gets to be Max's partners.
No, please no.
I wouldn't be surprised. I do remember this thing Matt brought up. My former co-host on this show, that was hiring Danhausen was Red Flag. I didn't at the time it happened. I was kind of like, I don't get it, but whatever. And I would say he's got his fans, but it hasn't really.
When he says red flag, does it mean for the tone of the show that's going to go gear more into comedy and stuff?
I think so. Yeah,
he's probably right.
So. Yeah. No, I know. And I know. And Parker is, I know Parker, and I talk to him, off still occasionally, and he's kind of a little down on AEW of late. So, although I don't want to speak for Parker, so if I'm wrong, don't sue me. But yeah, I thought Max Caster here, a way bigger dweeb than Roddy Strong, ever could hope to be. Just such a geek.
Yes, this is 60s television variety show. This is Laughing we're now doing.
His acting was so bad.
It was broad. It was broad and bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Christian's music hits. He goes to the ring with a mic. They showed highlights from Collision of his crew taking out Darby. He says, "Kansas City, keep the noise down while I conduct my business. You should be happy that you have a champ you can be proud of. Unlike your Chiefs, I don't need extra help to get any wins." And he says, "I left a lot of people's jaws on the floor with the 3 words I said to the Rated R superstar. I left him with his junk in his hands and that stupid look in his face he's had for years." He said, "I found it interesting that he said that Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne would turn on me based on his experience. I didn't take some ragtag group and dress them up like it's Halloween and they're tough guys. So that was a reference to Judgment Day.
Yes.
He says, I'm not their leader. I'm their father. And he says, you almost made me smile and get me with that big rah-rah speech. Let's finish our careers together. It's funny you didn't have that same sentiment a few years ago when I was being deliberately held back, even though I was clearly the more talented of us. Why didn't you want to get back together then, Adam? My, how things have changed. As your career is on a downward slope and my career keeps climbing to new heights, I'm the hottest star in this business. You need me. I don't need you. And he says, I can't blame you for being a fan, Adam. I have a lot of fans. Your wife, Beth, is a huge fan. I'm already getting bored of this, and I'm going to have my right hand of destruction end you once and for all. And your two little girls, Ruby and whatever the other one's name is, will be well taken care of. And Beth, put some clean sheets on the bed because your new father is coming home, girls. This is perfect.
Other than the shot at the Judgment Day, I did think the treatment of I was getting held back in the other company and then just glossing over that and getting to his actual career in AEW was well done in this promo. They usually just dwell on that a little bit too much. And I think the Edge part will dwell on it, which is going to be unfortunate in many ways.
Well, what was good about it was it came off more like they screwed up.
Yes.
As opposed to I didn't get it done over there.
Yes.
You know, it was like they had me and they blew it. Like that's what this was, which I mean, you don't hear that very often.
And then we got the most WWE match to ever be on AEW television.
Well, first Edge's music hit, and I'm going to go back and forth between Edge and Adam Copeland because it's Edge. I mean,
yes.
And he rushed the ring, but Christian bailed, and then Nick Wayne clipped him from behind, grabbed his leg, and Luchasaurus gave him the extinction lariat to the back of the neck, which is basically just a clothesline. And bell hadn't even rung yet, and crowd was spurring Edge on, and he makes it to his feet, and he tells the ref, "Ring the damn bell!" And Lucha attacked him right away, and then we got the match. Total WWE match. It was just slow plotting. Luchasaurus just beating on him and beating on him and beating on him. And it was, again, I mentioned this, like this, there was like 4 matches on the show that were like the Powerhouse Hobbs Chris Jericho match. And this was one of them, except that one was like a 3-minute match that went 7.5. This one was a 15-minute match. It should have gone about 4. But they just kept going. And you know, Adam Copeland didn't even get many like hope spots. At one point he hit a diving DDT, and then Luchasaurus would just take over, and then it got slow again. And this was not the match for his first match. I don't think. Like I think he's capable of better than this. Go ahead.
I'm actually concerned because look, Cody had that run in the Indies to learn how to work other styles and then go to New Japan and Ring of Honor, and he did PWG and stuff. And Copeland only has 20 some odd years in WWE. Are we going to need to have to do this every time?
Christian worked TNA for a while.
Yes.
Plus his style was more similar to an AEW style than Edge's is.
This all revolved around the spear. This entire match,
plus Christian doesn't actually wrestle all that often, which apparently by all accounts Edge is going to wrestle all the time. But yeah, it was like he kept going for the spear, and then like there'd be different things. Nick Wayne set up a chair in the corner, at one point, and Edge speared that, and so eventually he hit a springboard off the steps and hit a spear on Luchasaurus on the outside. Both guys were down. Fans are chanting "Holy shit!" It was like 7 of them. Christian runs down with the belt. Copeland got it, nailed Luchasaurus, and then he tossed the belt back to Christian, and Luchasaurus is looking at him, and he thinks Christian did it, and then Luchasaurus turns around, he gets hit by an Edge with a spear, and literally, like, I'd say Luchasaurus took 90% of this match.
No, that's good.
But Edge got the win, and so total WWE match, and not even a good one.
And the belt shot made no sense because in the beatdown afterwards, Luchasaurus never went for Christian.
Oh, no, I mean, he looked at him and he kind of questioned it for a second. And then when they were doing the post-match beatdown, there was a little bit of hesitation, I will say, from Luchasaurus, but he participated as,
on Christian's side and helped him out there. So it was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, this was 15-31. This was almost the second longest match on the show. The Danielson match was 30 seconds longer, but and it went. Oh, one thing I would mention here: the commercial that they went to right before this match started is the one production thing that I thought they screwed up on. And if we see bad numbers for this last segment, I wouldn't necessarily blame it on Edge, because they went to commercial at exactly the top of the hour. And you do that, and that's where people are going to change the channel and go look for something else.
Well,
Like, you
to my
don't do
knowledge,
that.
what happened, I wasn't following the other show closely, but the one thing I do know is I think Undertaker showed up right at the top of the hour.
Oh, wow. So, that was a bad miss time. And so either you're going to go to wrestling or you're going to go to, like whatever, like Chicago Fire, or, whatever's airing on other shows at 10 o'clock. Because you don't want to be going to commercial at the top of the hour. You want to be on during that time. You either go 3 minutes before or 3 minutes after. But I thought that was bad timing, what they did there. But after the match, they just had a big brawl. Nick Wayne took out Edge's knee, started pounding on him. Luchasaurus joined in. Christian's directing traffic. Bryan Danielson makes a save, fought them all off, and then Luchasaurus took him out. Christian started pouncing on him at that point. Then out comes Claudio and Wheeler, and everyone's brawling all over the place. Gates of Agony showed up. Hangman came out, and he starts brawling with Swerve. Edge hit Nick Wayne with the spear, and Cage was tapping out to the bell lock as they went off air. And and we're into our overrun, by the way. So we're Fight Game Media has graciously offered us this extra time.
They really tried to lean into the Excalibur as JR, screaming that everything has lost control here in this last part type of a thing, even though he never really got to that exasperated point.
Yeah, this is usually what you do when you're going into a pay-per-view. So it's kind of weird that they did it here, but it was a big show. And you know what? You probably had a lot of people watching that, maybe don't watch all the time. I don't know. I can't imagine I don't imagine they got any new fans tonight. I could be wrong, but I think if anybody got new fans, it was probably NXT, but I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. And overall, we'll see if the discourse gets bad tomorrow. I mean, I thought it was going to be bad, but it's going to be even worse, especially if Tony and MJF and company don't address the elephant in the room, so to speak. So I mean, I'm interested in the numbers, but I don't care about the numbers. I think here my prediction is AEW wins the demo and NXT wins the total.
That's the logical thing. Although I will say Dave Meltzer did some math in the Observer this week, and he says, like, based on the patterns and where they were last year when they did the same thing, which I'd completely forgotten about that we had this last year.
Yeah.
But last year, if you do the percentages and how they did compared to how they'd been doing, he predicted that AEW would come in at around a 0.24, and NXT would be like about a 0.27. And the overall numbers, NXT would be around 6.25, or sorry, Dynamite would be around 6.25, and NXT would be around 800,000. So
okay, no, I can see that. I mean, look, WWE is a little bit hotter right now, and they really loaded up on the stars, and they pushed it hard on TV. So it's
and the intangible is you do have the baseball playoffs going on. You have the NHL opening night, which is big in certain markets. We got the debut of Connor Bedard, who is supposed to be the next big thing.
And you have people watching the news.
And you have people watching the news, which again,
but when tragedies happen, people watch news a lot. So it's one of those.
Other
things.
Than me. And AEW reminded us of it. So
take it easy. Take it easy on yourself, Paul. You've said this a lot tonight. There's nothing.
I feel bad because this was described to me what's going on, and I'm completely oblivious. So
I'm gonna be somewhat interested in what people's takeaway. I'm thinking that there are some people who are going to dismiss that part of it a little bit harder than I did, and I'm not going to get angry about it. I mean, I've calmed down quite a bit, as you can hear from my demeanor since opening of the show. I've worked through my problems, I think, with it. I just I may just stay off Twitter tomorrow. That's what I might just do.
Well, did you catch Wrestling Observer Radio when Brian Alvarez he's talking to Dave, and
I'll be on the moon.
Ratings are going. Well, he says I'll be out of the country, and Dave's like, "Oh, really? Where are you going?" And he's like, I don't know, the moon, anywhere but here. And so Dave literally thought he was leaving the country. I thought that was so cute. All right, Jeff, we've been going a long time here. So, and I want to go watch that aforementioned hockey game that's sitting on my PVR. So, what do you got for us?
Yeah. At Crap Game 13, I do a show on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network called Shake Them Ropes. Don't know who's going to be on this week because Tram Fest is happening in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Chris Novembrino's band is playing throughout it. So me and somebody, I'll be talking about the perfectly cromulent Fastlane and all the news about Tuesday that's going to come throughout this week. And we'll see what other hell is unleashed. Also, that'll drop sometime
I'm sure there's
week.
more coming.
Yeah, but Twitter is where I put all my snark and arcane references. So please come follow me.
All right. And normally we're on Wednesdays, but you're probably listening to this on Wednesday morning. You'll also notice a show on your feed called In the Clinch, the MMA podcast with myself and Ryan Frederick. We recorded that last night, but we had a good show. I thought we're previewing the upcoming show this week. We talked about Conor McGregor. We talked about some Alistair Overeem, retiring, and a bunch of other stuff. So check that out.
Horse meat?
We did not bring up horse meat. No, but I did. I think I compared him to Mark McGuire. I know I did on the F4W board. I'm not sure if I did it on the show, but
that's not the worst comparison in the world, to be honest with you.
No. So for Jeff Hawkins, I've been Paul Fontaine, and this has been the Dynamite Show.